Okay, we spoke about modesty, right, and what are the sources in the Torah. Now I want to look at the book of Bereshit and the commentary of Rashi to show that the commentators in the Midrash and the Gemara took a lot of the Pesukim, the text, out of context and pushed them in the direction of immorality and sexuality and modesty and all that. It's like it's an agenda, sort of to scare people, to show that the sexual drive is so powerful, you have to be careful. This is what they dwell so much on it. And if you look at the Pesukim, they say it's not there. Where did we get it from? And especially it's interesting when you think of Rashi, because in all the schools, most of the Jewish schools, the way they teach Torah is Torah with Rashi. You go to classes, Torah with Rashi. Like Rashi is the most important commentator. And some people consider Rashi to be not just the number one, but the real meaning of the text. So let's look at some of the Pesukim. So Torah says in Sefer Bereshit, chapter 3, verse 1. Chapter 2, verse 23. Hashem is looking for a mate for Adam, right? And he brings all the animals and all the living creatures to Adam. Lirot ma'ikra lo shem, and he calls them names, but none of them is a fitting mate for Adam. And then he creates the woman, and he brings the woman to Adam. And Adam says, Zot ha'pa'am me'etzem me'atzamai uvasar mibsari. This time, it's a bone of my bones, and it's a flesh of my flesh. She's the one for me. Says Rashi, Zot ha'pa'am melamed sheba Adam al kol behema v'chaya v'lo nitkarera da'ato bahem. That was not translated to English in the Stone edition for some reason. What does it say? From the words, this time she's the right one, the Midrash concludes that Adam had sexual relationships with all the other animals. I'm reading Rashi, don't look at me like that. Melamed sheba Adam al kol behema v'chaya. Ba lavo means bi'ah means sexual relationship, right? So right, some of the commentators were disturbed by it. They say not really. He didn't really have sexual relationships with them. He just envisioned that if it could work, and he realized it cannot work. So we have a double problem here. First, it portrays Adam as like he's being engaged in the bestiality. It's a terrible misconduct. But second, it minimizes the relationship between a man and a woman to only based on sexual relationships, when it's much more than that. But that's the first problem that we see, that the Mefarshim, some from the Midrash, put this sexual innuendo in a place that it doesn't belong. When Adam says, he's looking, he realizes here's another human being. It's the most basic instinct to connect to another human being. But that's not all. The next couple of Pesukim, the Torah says, says Rashi, arum means shrewd, right? Cunning. But it sounds also like arom, naked. It's a word play. The word cunning. Cunning, shrewd. So Rashi says, מה העניין זה לכאן? היה לו לסמוך ויעש לאדם ולאשתו כותנות עור וילבישם. Should have written something else here. אלא ללמדך מאיזו סיבה קפץ הנחש עליהם. So the reason this is written right next to the verse that Adam and his wife are naked, to tell you why did the serpent start making problem? Why did he start making problem with them? ראה אותם ערומים ועסוקים בתשמיש לעין כל ונתאווה להם. There's another, it's Rashi, it's like not written in some esoteric book. Rashi says, he saw them naked and engaged in sexual relationship publicly, which was no public at the time. V'nit'ava lahem, and he had a desire for them, for both. Freud, 100%. Freud would be very happy with the Rashi here, especially because the serpent is definitely a phallic symbol. There's no question. But it's not. But Freud would start not from Rashi, from the Torah itself, because here, with the symbolism of the source of Etz Hadat is deep in that sense that the serpent symbolizes sexuality and death, and the woman symbolizes sexuality and life, but also the potential for death. Because the moment a woman gives birth and the new baby is born, also the clock starts ticking. So with every new life, there's a potential of death. But always there's a connection between women and death and serpent. There's a lot there. With Bezat Hashem, we'll do another discussion. But here, this is an interesting question. Why would Rashi say that the serpent has a desire for the woman? Not only that, later on, Rashi says on pasuk 15 in chapter 3, when Hashem says that He's going to create animosity between mankind and serpents, ואיבה השי, אתה לא נתכוונת, אלא שימות אדם כשיוכל הוא תחילה ותישא את חווה. So God tells the serpent, you wanted Adam to die when he eats first, and you will marry Hava. When, by the way, this is, I've seen schools where they teach this to children. So they rely on the fact that children are, don't really dwell on details, but this is a crazy story to even say that. So I think this is part of an overall agenda of showing that the original sin, you could say, very heavily influenced by Christianity. Because Rashi lived in France, studied in Germany. It's deep Catholic theology, and the Catholic theology, like I said yesterday, was all about this original sin of sexuality. For that reason, also, Rashi says the following. Here's something that is one of the most difficult commentaries of Rashi in the Torah. He says, "וישמעו את קול השם אלוהים מתהלך בגן לרוח היום." Right? He says, יש מדרשי אגדה רבים, וכבם סידרום רבותינו על מכונם בבראשית רבה ובשאר מדרשות. ואני לא באתי אלא לפשוטו של מקרא ולאגדה המיישב בדברי המקרא דבר דבור על אופניו. He said there are many midrashim, there are many midrashic interpretations that you could find in the Gemara and other places. It's a long introduction. He says, but I don't want to do that. I only want to give you the interpretation that fits with the pasuk. What is the pasuk? The pasuk says that they heard the voice of Hashem walking in the garden with ruach hayom, the breeze. So Rashi says, משמעו, שמעו את כל הקדוש ברוך הוא שהיה מתהלך בגן לאותו רוח שהשמש באה משם, וזוהי מערבית שלפנות ערב חמה במערב והם סרחו בעשירית. It says the pshat of the pasuk is that they heard Hashem walking in the garden with the breeze that comes from the west, because towards evening the sun is in the west, והם סרחו בעשירית, and they have sinned at the 10th hour. So the question when you read this, why is this the pshat of the pasuk, right? If what did Rashi see in the pasuk to say that this is the pshat? It's a big problem that is worth another study. But I think one of the one interpretation of that I found that is really neatly fits with the theology of Rashi is by one of the greatest scholars of Rashi, Professor Elazar Twito, Alav Shalom, that he shows how Rashi was very concerned with the Christian theology. Constantly there was an argument, a polemic between Rashi and the Christian commentators, because they live in the same neighborhoods, same towns, and the way the Christians interpret the Tanakh influences the way the Jews see it. So he doesn't want them to have a negative influence on his readers. So what is the problem here? The Christians Christianity explained that Adam and Hava, which comes later at the end, after they are driven out of Gan Eden, the Torah says, "V'ha'adam yada et Hava ishto, v'tar v'teled Kain," and Adam knew his wife, meaning he had relations with her, and she had Kain. So Rashi says, "Kvar kodem ha'anyan shel ma'ala, kodem shechata v'nitrad migan Eden, v'chen ha'eron v'aleda." Rashi says, already in Gan Eden, they had children. When the Torah says, "V'ha'adam yada et Hava ishto," and now they had children, it's a flashback. The Torah tells you already before. Now we finished one story, so now let's go back to the other line, the other storyline, which is why is Rashi concerned about that? Because according to Christianity, in Gan Eden, Adam and Hava had no relationships, only after they were driven out, and because, as I mentioned, sexuality itself is a sin. So they say in Gan Eden they're pure, they're like angels. They had no relations with each other. Only after they're being exiled, that's when they have it. Rashi wants to drive the point that they had a relationship in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden, meaning that's an integral part of creation, and it's not a sin by itself, right? But that because they did it in what is considered to be an immodest way, the serpent is now after them with lust and desire and all that. For that reason, when Rashi says, when he speaks about the pasuk, "Vayishme'u et kol Hashem Elohim," they hear Hashem walking in the garden. He really works very hard to show that it's towards the end of the day, Sha'a Asirit, meaning almost sunset, and they had enough time before that to engage in relationships. And all that is when Rashi is making those elaborate introduction just in order to refute Christianity. It's interesting because we have to remember that people look at Rashi today and think that he wrote in a vacuum, like he sits in a bubble and writes a commentary that is not related to time or space, but it is. This is all of Rashi's commentary is influenced by where he lived and the where and when he lived. And as a matter of fact, every time he says, "I only want to bring the pshat of the pasuk," he's trying to refute some kind of a Christian theology. But that's another really conversation. The thing is that we see from the whole discussion of what happens in the Garden of Eden that Rashi and the Midrashim add another layer of modesty, immodesty, sexuality into the story to create the impression that men and women should be as I would say separated from each other as possible and behave with modesty. Even though I think also personally that the reason Rashi adds those elements to the story is sort of to satisfy the need of the readers, of the listeners, to have some action. They would say, medieval times, did anyone had to read the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer? Did you have to read it in high school? It's terrible, no? That was the kind of folk tales that were going around in medieval times. Geoffrey Chaucer and others, all kind of tales, what they call tales of modesty, were really, I know today would have been considered pornographic material. But the way, but the priests or the authors knew that this is what people want. So instead of telling them as this kind of pornographic material, they dressed it with a disguise of modesty. We want to teach you moral and ethics and how not to behave. So they tell you all kind of stories of adultery and prostitution and peritzut and so on. So Rashi also, I think, in a way, for his readership or the people who read the commentary, this also helped them. They enjoy that they have those little things in the commentary here and there. But definitely, this is not the story as written in the Torah. The story of the Garden of Eden has nothing to do with sexual relationship or the Nahash, the serpent, engaged in that. And one more Rashi says it again, by the way. Vayushne Marumim in chapter 3, verse 20. Now, another example of where we have innuendo or this sexuality that is not there. No, Rashi doesn't bring that here, but the Midrash does. That when Cain and Hevel were fighting, that one of the reasons they were fighting was for an additional woman that was created. Either was Hava Rishonah, a prototype of Hava that Hashem created and then cast away, or that they had an extra twin that Cain wanted to marry. So adding this whole element to the story is not really part of the pasuk. And finally, we have another example of that. Again, adding innuendo to the pasuk where it's not there. The Torah says in chapter 4, verse Yutet, "Vayikach lo lemech shete nashim, shema achat Ada, v'shema sheni Tzila." Lemech had two wives. One was called Ada, the other one was called Tzila. So Rashi says, "Shte nashim, kach היה דרכה של דור המבול, אחת לפרייה ורבייה ואחת לתשמיש." That this was customary at the time of the generation of the flood to have two wives. One is only for to have children. The other one is for sexual relationship. זו שהיא לתשמיש משכח כוס של עקרים כדי שתעקר ומקושטת כיכלה ומאכילה מעדנים. So one of them is sterilized by drinking a special potion that makes her barren, sterile, and he feeds her well, dresses her up. Meanwhile, the other one is like a widow. She's there only to get pregnant and to have children, which is definitely not the pshat of the pasuk for a very simple reason, because both Ada and Tzila had children. They both had. It says ותלד עדה את יבל ושם אחיו יובל וצילה עדת תובל ואחות תובל קין עמה. Each one of them had two children. So again, we see the tendency that we take the commentators take pesukim out of context and work them into something which has to do with sexuality, with morality. The most famous pasuk, actually, that people say every day, several times, and is always interpreted by commentators, but many commentators, as dealing with that, is in the parasha of Tzitzit. "V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei lechem asher atem zonim achareim." That you will not be misguided by your eyes and heart, which you deviate because of them. But so it was easy to make the transition because of the word zonim, which sounds like prostitution, but not liznot acharei Elohei nechar haaretz means avodah zarah. Liznot means to deviate from the right path and go in a different direction. When the Torah says that you have to look at the tzitzit, v'lo taturu acharei levavchem, means that the tzitzit will remind us our obligation as Jews and the commitment to the whole Torah. It's not about modesty or immorality. Okay, we'll conclude here. Tomorrow we'll continue with some more Rashi's.